Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning to this, the Wednesday edition of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Goodness me, it's very good to have you on the show. Remember, if you're watching the simulcast on Facebook or on YouTube, then do me a favor, smash that like button. Hit the like button right now. It helps grow our audience, and of course share the stream. Now, if you're watching on YouTube in particular, then do me an even bigger favor. Subscribe to the show, will you? Become a part of the BDL family. Folks who are subscribing, and help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We have a website also. Find us at bigdaddyliberty.com. Find out what I do. There's a lot of information on that website as to what I do. It isn't just the show, and of course you can also financially contribute to our work. Anything between 50 to 100 Rand. Our average is 75 Rand per person per month, and you can find a payment method that suits you. Now, with that mouthful out of the way, how about we get straight into the news? All right, I take you to the Eastern Cape now, where, I've said it before, and I literally telegraphed it. Things are about to get very tense and very tough for the ANC as it heads into this election season. I take you to Queenstown in the Eastern Cape, now called Komani, of course, where, as you'll know, the residents of that part of the world fed up with the abysmal service delivery there. In fact, the lack of service delivery, period. Those same residents calling for the dissolution of the local government in that part of the world were visited by DLAMINI ZUMA, aka Buffalo Bill. She visited the town of Queenstown to speak to the disgruntled community, who have formed a bit of a community forum committee called the Komani Protest Action. I hope I got that right. Now, these residents, again, as I said, who come from all walks of that particular community, have come together and said enough with the absolutely useless state of the local municipality. I want to read from this EWN piece, which captured the mood rather nicely here, but avoided mentioning one thing, which I'll show you what happened there. But nonetheless, as I mentioned, Buffalo Bill or DLAMINI ZUMA visited the community and had this to say. Now, DLAMINI ZUMA assured the gathered community members that she had heard their cries. She was quoted as saying, "We have heard your message, but let me explain. As a minister, I don't have the power to answer, but I will present a memorandum to cabinet with what you have said." End of quote. How you like that impression of her? But anyway, moving on. It's further quoted in the piece as having said the following. Now, community formed committee Komani Protest Action said that they would resume the shutdown on Wednesday until their demands were met. And that last comment, or that last bit, is exactly the response she got. It is a mixture of non-believing residents who are just fed up with the politicians. Now, you must remember, the chief call by residents in that part of the world is the dissolution of the council. People want it to be dissolved. They literally are saying in an open manner, hashtag politicians are trash. Yes, that's right. You knew it was coming. And they want their local council, which is the Enoch Mgejima local municipality, useless municipality, dissolved. And one of the things they also didn't want, or took real exception to, are more promises by politicians, with some of those residents actually saying piss off to Buffalo Bill. Watch this. Yes, that's right. ANC members and ANC politicians are getting a frosty reception across the country. Now, this bodes well, of course, for those of us who absolutely despise the ANC and indeed despise leftist politics generally. But that's a topic for another day. But community members across the country now recognize that the ANC is absolutely useless and are treating ANC politicians with the same disdain that they, as politicians, treat the public. As to whether this will translate into 2024 electoral change, Time will tell. All right, in other news, in a sense, staying with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, aka Buffalo Bill, the ANC, man, clearly haven't learned the lesson. The ANC are sticking with that approach, a taste for almost authoritarian, totalitarian powers that they experienced during the state of disaster for the spicy cough. You'll remember that, of course, which is a piece of legislation that is declaring a state of disaster, which is what they used to then precipitate these lockdowns. As they, as I've mentioned before, are looking to implement a state of disaster once again in order to this time deal with load shedding. And guess, dear viewer, who they want to make the face of that new state of disaster once again. Yes, that's right. Buffalo Bill Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma herself. Miss.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Yeah, that's right. Buffalo Bill, once again, by way of NDZ, who seemingly relished putting South Africans in a deep hole and punishing us during the last state of disaster. That's who the ANC wants to put back at the helm of this state of disaster declaration that they are proposing on behalf of that is to deal with load shedding. I've told you this once and I'll tell you again. Stop giving politicians unfettered powers like this. Nothing becomes better if you give politicians more power. The ANC relishing the opportunity for another state of disaster, likely for two reasons. One, the almost totalitarian power that it gives them, of course, with Buffalo Bill at the helm, and two, of course, the money. The absolute free-for-all ability to loot once checks and balances are removed in the name of emergency powers that they need under the state of disaster. That's the real grift happening here. I want to read very quickly from a My Broadband piece that detailed just exactly what they're looking for and actually some of the opposition people are facing. Now, those opposed to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Cocter, guiding the country's energy recovery efforts have warned her decisions during the COVID-19 pandemic made her highly unpopular with South African voters. Ramaphosa is expected to announce a reshuffled cabinet within a few days of his 2023 State of the Nation address on the 9th of February. Now, several political experts believe that the 74-year-old Dlamini Zuma will be among the ministers getting axed. Aside from her falling out of favor with the general public, she also appears to have become an outright political enemy of Ramaphosa. End of quote. And that's what makes the whole thing even funnier. Ramaphosa is such a spineless git that he cannot even make decisive decisions around this. There was the issue of where in the world is David Mabuza? That's right. When no one knew what the standing of his resignation was, where the president himself didn't even announce the fact that the deputy president of the country had tendered a resignation letter. And now you have this situation with Buffalo Bill, who out and out has basically told Ramaphosa that I am opposed to you. I will stand against you at an ANC level, and of course I'll even stand against you as a cabinet colleague. This is baffling at a political level to keep people like this in his cabinet. So let me conclude here. Stop giving politicians unfettered powers. It becomes irrelevant as to who is at the helm of those powers. The DA will be just as terrible if it was given state of disaster powers. I mean, we saw that when during the spicy cough and the lockdown, the DA government in the Western Cape was just as statist, just as authoritarian as its national government counterparts. So it's not a case of who the politicians are. The issue is what we're giving politicians, which is unfettered political powers. Stop doing that, because suddenly you'll quickly realize, when there's no difference between all of them, that hashtag politicians are trash. All right, in our final story of the day, just a bit of feedback of that story, that tragic story we covered yesterday of TUT student, that's Tshwane University of Technology student, Ntokozo Xaba, her murderer, alleged murderer rather, the man accused of having killed her, who happens to be an ex-boyfriend. I can now name him because he has appeared in court. Of course, Ungebo Tusi, facing charges of murder and, of course, defeating the ends of justice. In that particular courtroom, very tense moments as fellow students, of course, and supporters of the deceased, Ntokozo Xaba, and GBV activists, obviously expressing their anger at the situation and indeed expressing their feelings at the first appearance of Utusi in court on Monday. Now, standing in the dock wearing a grey hoodie and jeans, Tusi, who had his arms folded the entire time, looked ahead as a packed gallery did not take their eyes off him. There was a palpable anger, a palpable tension in that courtroom. Now, here's the thing. I said this once and I'll say it again. This story resonates on a very personal level for me, only insofar as it's sickening, and it sickens me that the crime in this country is so violent, that human lives in this country are so cheap, that allegedly, a supposed ex-boyfriend, someone who's meant to love you as a partner, would actually be the one who kills you. Really highlights the disaster, the problem that is gender-based violence in this country. And beyond the empty activism that we often see around GBV, what's really needed is a society that begins to have a very serious and hard conversation around how we empower women to defend themselves in situations like these. Because far too many of these incidents happen where the woman does all the right things, right? Does all the things that the GBV activists will tell them to do. Go to the police, they'll say. Get a protection order, they'll say. But these women are still being killed. So I'm of the firm view that the next part of the conversation really should be, how do we protect, or rather, yes, on the one hand, actually I'm right. How do we protect women, but also how do we empower them to protect themselves? This is where I've always advocated for women, once they're ready, getting training, getting licensed, and when they're really ready, acquiring a firearm. There is no escape from the fact that we live in a society with predators on the lurk. Women need to be their own first responders. Of course, we should have a conversation around how we as men should assume our masculine roles once again of protecting our women. But at the end of the day, women in this country right now, you are on your own, and you have to be able to be prepared to defend yourself. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. If you love how we start your mornings, then you'll absolutely appreciate the work of our friends at the Daily Friend. They come to you, of course, Mondays to Thursdays live at 1:30 p.m. And you can find them, of course, at dailyfriend.co.za. With that being said, on your way out, please hit that like button, share the show with your friends, help me grow my numbers. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can also find us on our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. With that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow on another episode of Vuka Nazo.